Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Yesterday I was wondering what would transpire in the 23 hours since I last spoke to you. Well, I mean, it's... Excuse me! Dang it! Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for all ears that got... Here, I'm backing the mic up. I think my voice is getting louder just because of my general angst. Well, I don't even know where to start. If we hadn't already created 24/7 news coverage, a la cable TV news, we sure as hell would be inventing it now, because it takes... there's no way to get all the news in that you, by rights, should be aware of. So since I last saw you, let me see if I can, off the top of my head, remember some of the things that have happened. The president apparently, in a phone call with the president of Australia, went berserk and was screaming at this guy. By the way, Australia is one of our major allies, and I must say, our allies are dropping like flies, or they're, cowering in corners. Someone at the White House later said that the president had had a long day, and he was tired. And I'm thinking, whoa, buddy, it wasn't late at night, that phone call. Oh, no. See, he ain't up to this. He ain't up to this. And I don't know that that's why he lost it. The call was scheduled to be a 1-hour call. He hung up on the Australian after 26 minutes, apparently. Okay, so we've offended the one country that I believe has been at our side in every mistaken, absurd war we have waged from Vietnam on. The Aussies have always been there, right with us. And he treated this guy like somebody who really messed up on Celebrity Apprentice. And then he's created, he's ratcheted up the tension between our country and Iran by tweeting at them. He tweeted at them this morning. This is, I get, we knew this would be, but just seeing it play out is just astonishing, truly. And my understanding is, the breaking news is that the Iranians have blasted back and said they intend to continue these missile tests. And the president can, tweet away. So he's, I guess, in you could say they're seeing who's going to blink first, or this is one of those macho games where you stare each other down, right? The same thing, right? Is that what this is? Great. Wonderful. Wonderful. Even like conservatives were tweeting after he tweeted out his thing at Iran, which came this morning at 6:30. He tweeted, "Iran has been formally, caps, put on notice for firing a ballistic missile. Should have been thankful for the terrible deal the U.S. made with them." And then he went on to say Iran was going to collapse before they got this great deal. And on and on. His tweets today, one at 6:30, one at 6:39, and then last night he was tweeting about the Aussies. Extraordinary. But a conservative, Eric Erickson, tweeted in response, "Days like this, I find myself in the fetal position muttering, President Pence, please God, President Pence." So, and then I made the mistake of listening to the president this morning at the National Prayer Breakfast. Oh my God. You know, the National Prayer Breakfast, which I don't think we should have anyway, is started up by Dwight Eisenhower during the beginnings of the Cold War, when we were positioning ourselves against the godless commies by talking about God all the time. This is when the Pledge of Allegiance got altered so that we put in those two words, under God. And the prayer breakfast was part of that. Trump, I cannot begin to tell you. He's at the National Prayer Breakfast and he starts talking about Celebrity Apprentice. And how he was the greatest. And how he was going to fire somebody. So he's firing people. He's this and that, my rating. He said, and then when I become president, they give Celebrity Apprentice to, never mind, he's the executive producer. They give Celebrity Apprentice to a movie star, he says, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and, well, we know what happened then. And there was a silence from the audience, and he said, the ratings tanked. So this is the National Prayer Breakfast, and for some reason, the president, before he gets to anything, is talking about how he got higher ratings than Arnold Schwarzenegger. Unbelievable. He is a true vulgarian in every aspect. Good God. The fact of the matter is, in regard to Iran, by the way, it is unclear, and in fact, a lot of people say that Iran did not, by firing that missile, violate the agreement. Did not. The agreement called for Iran to... They're called upon to refrain from missile tests, but is not forbidden to conduct them. So I guess in diplomatic speak, that is, to refrain is not as intense as forbidden. Refrain, maybe, I guess, is a suggestion. I wouldn't know that. Oh, dear. Oh, God. Here's a question. I got into a spirited argument with somebody last night about this. He said, my mother always told me, pick your fights. And I think I agree with that. And I think this is a time to test that adage. In any given day, Trump and Bannon throw out so much that outrages us, that we want to resist, that we need to stand up against. But it could well be that by peppering us with all of these things, they diminish our strength by having us running scattered, hitting here, hitting there. And I really do think that we're going to have to get smarter about taking these jerks on, these dangerous, dangerous people. Let's just take the Gorsuch, the Supreme Court nominee. Does anybody think for a minute that he's not going to be put on the court? No. Just like all the cabinet secretaries. If the Republicans have to change rules, they'll do it. If they have to go nuclear, they'll do it. All these people are going through. The only one who was deemed horrific enough is, of course, the woman, Betsy DeVos. And she still could get through with a tying vote with a tiebreaker vote from the vice president. So how much do you fight Gorsuch? I understand completely the desire to do to the Republicans what they did to Barack Obama and to Merrick Garland. Wait a minute. Look what you did here. That's exactly. We're going to treat your guy with the same respect that you treated the last person nominated to a seat on the Supreme Court, which would mean we wouldn't even hold a hearing. But of course, we don't run things. So there will be hearings. And I don't see wasting a lot of energy on Gorsuch. It's the next appointment that's going to be the one. Because what this does is just put us right back where we were. But if there's another vacancy, that's when the court and God, I don't know. I got a feeling that part of the method to the madness of this administration 2 weeks in is exactly that, to dilute the opposition by throwing so much crap at us that we're all over the place. We need to, I think, pick our fights strategically and wisely. I could argue the other side, but I'm thinking that there's probably something to be said for... I know the Democratic base, is so angry right now that they don't want to see any Democratic senator doing anything other than constant resistance. Well, it ain't going to happen, number one. If you want to go after them electorally in primaries that may be coming up, go for it. But they're not going to do it. There's a sizable chunk of them that ain't going to do it. So what's the... I just don't... I don't know. We don't have a lot of time to figure out how to get smart about this. And I have this sensation of the Democrats as on their heels. They really... We feel leaderless and without a plan. Now, the fact is the Republicans are not exactly in a great position either, although I'd trade places with them, and that is because they've got a lunatic and a neo-fascist in the Oval Office. And he's unstable, the putative president. And that's a real problem. As a matter of fact, even Karl Rove today in the Wall Street Journal wrote a piece, the headline of which is Amateur Hour at the White House. So Rove is looking at this White House and thinking, oh my God. And he's suggesting that unless they get their act together, we could be heading into some cataclysmic event if they don't get more sober, more thoughtful, if they'll stop rushing everything. Okay, so today was the National Prayer Breakfast, and you saw, or you didn't, I saw, how Trump handled that with all the usual dignity and decorum. But yesterday was even more, one of those things that you can't look at. You literally can't bear to look. And that was the little thing, even called it little. This is this little thing we do for Black History Month. It's a little thing we do. And I guess what the little thing was is that the president sat down with a few black people that they could wrestle up that were supporters. On one side, he had Omarosa. On the other side, he had Ben Carson. His two house Negroes. That the way that goes? I think so. And then there were a few scattered behind him. And oh my God, do you have the transcript of that thing? It was mind-boggling. But the funniest part, first of all, he's saying African Americans have done so, their history is so, well, it's just amazing here and even around the world. Exceptional people. Just this blathering nonsense, meaninglessness. And then he dispatched with Martin Luther King in about 6 words. He talked about Frederick Douglass as if he were still alive. He said something like, Frederick Douglass. Doing a wonderful job. Something like that. I don't know. He's done. He said, so there is a slight, he's done a wonderful job. And getting recognized for it more and more. I think that was it. What? Frederick Douglass has been dead for like 140 years. Jeez. An example of somebody who has done an amazing job and is being recognized more and more, I notice. What? He actually talked about Omarosa more than he did about Dr. King. And he bragged about he got more African-American votes than people said he would because these people realize and things are really terrible and they blah, blah, blah. And he went into his usual stuff. Oh, my God. Somewhere I saw a number, and I've repressed it because it just seemed so ridiculously huge, but I'm sure it wasn't. It was like well over 1,000, I think. The number of lawsuits that Trump is involved in that are from his stellar job as a titan of the real estate industry. And these things are going to pepper his administration, however long it lasts. And so we have a federal judge yesterday in Florida ordering Trump to pay millions of dollars to former members of one of his Gulf resorts. The federal judge, by the way, is a Republican appointee appointed by George W. So this is not, a federal judge trying to embarrass the president. This is a federal judge who sat through an awful lot of testimony and said, "Jays, listen, Trump, you got to pay $6 million. You refused to refund to members who were wanted to resign from the club. In fact, you kept charging them. You kept this. It's just unbelievable." Trump, in true fashion, the Trump folks are going to appeal this. Now, this was at a federal judge level, so I don't know where that appeal goes. Does it go to a federal appeals court? God forbid it gets to the Supreme Court. There are so many of these cases. It's mind-boggling. Also, stop and think. He's been in office now for about 2 weeks. The General Services Administration has still not taken any action whatsoever to alert him that he has got to sell that monstrosity of a hotel in D.C. because he's not allowed to own it because he's an elected official. GSA has not done it. They're probably scared. And because he's their boss. And stop and think about it. The IRS, who's still auditing him, he's their boss. Unbelievable. Roger writes, after the Civil War, freed slaves started businesses, held public positions. The KKK rose up, came in, and through violence, intimidation, Jim Crow laws, stopped and reversed progress for a good 100 years. I feel the same thing is happening now after the Obama years, that its hate is compelled to wipe out this black president's legacy and any progress he made. Do you think this comparison is too radical? No, I don't think so. It is the same kind of reflexive action. The rise of the KKK in response to black people's attempt to secure what the federal government said they now had. Man, that was shut down through terror. Through terror that continued into my lifetime. And it was done because of this, the racism, and also because this black guy's politics were encompassing and were liberal, in fact. So that anger, the idea, he actually stood for health care as a human right, and they do want to wipe it out, and they're actively engaged in doing so, in doing just that. All White House actions taken during the Obama administration, all regulations passed, that's what this Congress is now engaged in. Stopping them. Banking regulations. After the 2008 debacle, they're going to wipe those out, give the banks everything they want. It is something. Environmental protection, give it up. God help our streams. God help our wildlife. God help us. Mary, hi.
Hi, Lynn. It's wild. I think back to before this all happened, and in my personal life, I was working on acceptance and understanding. In my old age, this is what I was doing.
You were trying to what? Be a better person. This is what you were working on? Yeah.
Typical liberal, loving liberal. But I've for a long time, I've been looking at the, and it is basically it's human. It's just some type of a human nature. There are lovers and haters. Lovers. I actually refer to myself as a loving liberal, and I have to wonder what happened. How did this happen?
Well, the haters the haters are, rather than haters, I mean, I know what you're saying, but it's the frightened people that are rounded up and corralled by people who have an agenda. And they're made to fear, and from that fear, they're made to hate, right?
But how did we not recognize the vast amount around? I mean, did we get so comfortable?
Because we're
like people of our. I mean, how did we not recognize?
Because it's
that
taken
there were so many that.
It's taken decades, and we self-segregate. We don't live together. Your friend. First of all, it is true that most of liberals live in cities. When people live in cities, they usually get more liberal because they're engaged with all different kinds of people. I was talking to a friend of mine who has family who lives in, way out in the middle of nowhere in Pennsylvania on a farm. And her parents, who are nice people, are rabidly pro-Trump. And she has tried everything to talk to them, and their minds are washed. They're totally been propagandized by Fox, the only thing they listen to. And in their bubble, there are no black people. There are no brown people.
Yep.
There are no Jews. There are no Muslims. There's only white Christians.
And
that's
the
what they know.
I guess we need to step up and put ourselves in these. I don't know if I can do it, but I have the stomach for it. But these are our neighbors and our families, and they voted for this. They are absolutely. This is what he's just doing what they told him to do, and they're just so. To me, it's not up for debate. This is. I refuse to allow prejudice and hatred. It's not. No, absolutely not. And I can't imagine the next administration's cleanup job.
But that's always what Democrats get. Democrats come into office, and they end up spending their entire tenure cleaning up some disastrous mess caused by Republican policy.
This mess, though, the antagonizing, it's leading to war, and
it could well.
I heard it said that there was I've tried so hard to think of who it was. Said that this was a very learned, educated person, and they said they didn't know what weapons were going to be used in World War III. But they did know that World War IV would be using sticks and stones.
Yeah, right.
So, and Lynn, I think we need to be focused on the Russian 19 million, the promised 19 million to Trump.
I agree. Well, Mary, you got to figure that a little nugget like that has got the attention of some pretty dogged reporters. But if this transaction, used all these shell companies and stuff, it might be very hard to prove it, and yet, yes, it's out there, and it's got to be proven. That's the problem.
We just can't. We all are. It is definitely an old war tactic. You throw so much that we're running around putting fires out.
Right.
And
Right.
the media and you. God bless you people for being our voice.
Well, but the voice is
being the watchman, being the voice, being the.
Nah, I don't know, Mary. I don't know any more than you. God help us.
How did this happen? How on earth did it?
You know what? Listen.
I can't believe it.
You are so, as I was saying yesterday, I cannot go anywhere, out to dinner, anywhere, to the grocery store. And any human interaction I have now is this conversation we're having. That's all we're talking about. And so at least know this. You're not alone. On the other hand, all the people who voted for Trump, most of them, without a doubt, are loving this. There's a guy from Monessen quoted in the New York Times today saying, "Yeah, I love him. He says what he thinks. He doesn't tolerate it." And you see, and I'm thinking, why is the New York Times letting some fucking idiot from Monessen have his voice? Because we, elitists, apparently, are supposed to listen to fools. Well, I'm done.
I don't know, Lynn.
Up to here.
I don't know.
I don't know either,
Wait
Mary.
Wait a minute. Maybe that's how we got caught with our pants down, because
we didn't listen.
We weren't.
Maybe.
Last night I saw on, I think it was CNN, Glenn Beck.
Yeah.
I didn't. I tell you what, I cannot. I don't have the stomach right now. I'm a little fragile to look. I haven't looked for years at Fox News and so forth. And he was on there basically anti-Trump.
He is.
I didn't know this.
Yes, he is.
And he was saying that Bannon is a Leninist.
Yeah, no, he is. Beck is against Trump. He is.
I didn't know.
But he's still Glenn Beck. I would, with people like him, I give wide berth, but I'll give him this. He did break.
I was shocked.
He broke from the pack and said, no, these people are.
Well, they have a zero tolerance for such a thing. Is he even still on their payroll? Where he looks
No, he's
terrible.
on a different. No, he's not on. He's not on any major network. I don't think. I don't know where the hell he is. I don't pay attention either. And I haven't had the nerve to watch Fox either. But we should. Because, again, what you said, how did this happen? How did this happen? Man, you can't fight these people if you don't watch them and understand what they're telling all these people, all these Americans who put him into office. We do need to pay attention. Fox News is essentially now Pravda. It's the government. Whatever. Hey, Mary, got to run because I got another call. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Joe, hello.
Hello, Lynn.
Yes.
If Democrats are so mad, look in the goddamn mirror. We're the ones that caused it, not us, not you, not I. We didn't vote in midterms. They didn't come out at midterms. This last election, the Democrats thought Hillary's going to win, so they said, hell with it, I ain't coming. We're the blame. So look in the mirror. We did it. I'm not even a Democrat. I shouldn't say we.
No, I said I sort of not either.
I'm not a Democrat.
I don't
I'm
care.
independent anyway.
Well.
But that's why we're in this situation, because we didn't vote. And until they vote in the midterms and start coming out every time, that's the only way. And that's what the Republicans are good at. They're good at getting those people out in the midterms and.
Well, you need,
mad.
That's right. But you need to get in at the ground floor. You need to have these think tanks that then create their own propaganda that gets out. The Republicans have labored long and hard, the conservatives, to get where they've gotten. Now, they might regret it because they got there with this lunatic, but they have always outworked liberals.
Right.
Always. And one of the reasons is because liberals are always fighting amongst themselves. They're always breaking into smaller and smaller groups until you end up with everybody's in their own group. It just makes me crazy. I always said I couldn't stand joining any sort of left-wing group. Go to one meeting and you'll never go to another.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Another thing, I agree with you. This Supreme Court justice, let the damn guy go in there.
He is. He's ostensibly qualified. Right. Yeah, pick your battles.
When Trump decides to go to war, I want all the Democrats to say, no, we're not going to be another Iraq again. No. When they want to cut all the benefits out of all the plans we have, no. Say no at the things that are important and put it down, no.
Yeah.
I mean, you just got to say no. This other little trivia stuff, I mean, now the next Supreme Justice, I could understand them boycotting or whatever the hell they're going to do.
As you know, I agree.
Okay.
Thanks,
right.
Joe.
Thank you.
Another thing I want to say is when I happened to turn on the TV last night and saw the fires burning at Berkeley and found out that it was to stop a speech given by the vile Milo Yiannopoulos, the Breitbart guy, who lives to create that kind of chaos. That plays right in to his hands. That is not helpful. And there was this tweet with this picture of burning God knows what and and it said, "This is what community looks like." Well, it's not any community I identify with, you fucking idiots. What don't these progressive young liberals at Berkeley not understand about free speech? Berkeley was the cradle of the free speech movement in the 60s. Freedom of speech is not freedom of speech that only you agree with. If you are for freedom of speech, you let that son of a bitch say what he wants to say. You do not shut his speech down. It makes my head explode, the stupidity. Who we got, John? Hello, John. John, hello.
Hey, Lynn. Yeah, hi.
Hi.
Good morning.
Hi.
Yes, the Berkeley seems to be full of arrogant,
Idiots.
self-satisfied, self-righteous fools who don't understand that they've damaged their own cause. Now, I will say that I have no goddamn idea what Berkeley or any other self-respecting institution is doing inviting.
Well, you know what it always is. It's one club. It's like the Berkeley Republican Club. That's what it is. It's one club that does have the right to bring speakers. It can happen at any university. And these lunatic lefties always, he couldn't have asked for something more wonderful than what they did.
Correct. Absolutely. But now, I want to go back. Actually, the reason I called, your first caller today was asking where this
started. How did we get
where
here?
did it
Yeah.
come from?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this wasn't spontaneous. Yes, this man is a fool, an erratic, unqualified fool. But it happened successively.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as I kind of went off on a bit of a slightly incoherent meander last week, probably because I I still feel like I'm in something of a dreamlike.
No, you're in my nightmare. We're all in the same nightmare. That's it. We are.
I mean, the Republicans have put up it's been a succession of more and more heinous candidates into office. Nixon, Reagan, but we want to talk about what Republicans are willing to accept as a trade-off for power, and what
anything
I'm willing to call out.
Anything.
Ronald Reagan was incompetent mentally the last 2 years, at least, in office.
Probably.
He was incompetent. He was being affected by Alzheimer's. That is painfully apparent. No Republican would ever call him out. And frankly, the Democrats were too timid, and the press was too timid. I read an account once, published years afterward, by Diane Sawyer. She had a meeting with Ronald Reagan, and she came away writing about how she was shaken because she realized the man was no longer mentally lucid.
Mm-hmm.
But she didn't say a thing about it in public. You had a media that didn't pursue a Iran Contra because, as David Broder said, no one wanted another Watergate. You had the New York Times, which enabled the Second Iraq War, an occupation based on doctored intelligence. Who was held accountable for that, either in the media or in the government?
Well, listen.
A Republican Party that respects no American institution, who apparently decided that black Democratic presidents don't get to appoint Supreme Court justices.
Democrats don't
anymore.
get to. No, that's true, especially
Right.
black ones.
Democrats don't get to appoint.
No, Democrats, there's a whole different set of rules for Democrats and a whole different set for Republicans. John, I got another call. This is what happens when I get a phone line where we can have other callers. So I'm going to have to, thank you. We're all in each other's nightmares. Hello, Beth.
Hi, Lynn.
Hi.
I have 2 legal questions I wanted to throw out there.
Okay.
I know just with your brother and your involvement with the ACLU, and if we have some legal person who listens to the show, and that is, first of all, what's happening with Toomey, that he's pretty much denied access of representation.
Right. You can't talk to him. He won't listen to us.
How is that? How is someone not going to court and doing an injunction that you're preventing the people to go after to talk to their public servants?
I don't know.
And then the second one is, and this is just maybe this could be a different way of blocking this Supreme Court nominee. And that is, if the Senate is not to profit from their position, could the argument be made, since now when you look at our Supreme Court, it's all Harvard and Yale Law School. We don't have any other legal, we have no other law schools influence on that court but 2. Should the senators that have attended, in this case Harvard, have to recuse themselves because in a way it values their education that much more?
No. I think you're grasping at straws in both cases. Those don't seem like winners to me.
It was just something that came up, and you know what, I guess since the election, yes, I have been grasping at whatever I can grasp at.
Well, it hasn't been, I didn't see it mentioned anywhere, but the one thing this Supreme Court nominee brings to the to the Supreme Court is diversity. Did you notice? He's a Protestant. There is not now a Protestant on the court. And when Scalia was on, there was no Protestant on that court. They're all Catholics and Jews. And so finally, the poor beleaguered Protestants who controlled the court for about 200 years or more, they finally have a Protestant. This is Trumpian diversity.
Again.
Yes, I'm so pleased for them. I don't know. I don't think so. It is an outrage. To me, his refusal to engage his constituents is outrageous. He should be.
And is any local media even discussing this?
I'm not aware. I don't know enough. I mean, I don't watch or listen
Okay.
enough. But the reality is I think good people who want to do something, and I know there's been people screaming at his office here every Tuesday. There have been people in D.C. at his offices there. He has been he's hermetically sealed. He's scared. And he's
and
he's
again,
a Quisling.
I know a friend of ours did call, I guess, like KDK, their news tip line or something like that.
Yeah.
And they're the person, I guess, who answered the phone. Oh yeah, we know about that.
Yeah, they know about it. Are they covering it? Do a friggin'
No,
yeah,
and
I know.
even just all the regional offices too.
Well, it's too bad because, Beth, how do you expect them to cover something like that when there was a fire hydrant went kaplooey in Bloomfield or something? Come on.
Right.
Come on.
Again, I'm grasping. What can I say?
We all are. Thank
you.
Thank you. Goodbye. Jon Stewart said last night, or not last night, 2 nights ago, on Late Night with Stephen Colbert, it has been 11 days, Stephen. 11 fucking days. The presidency is supposed to age the president, not the public. We're all getting gray. Indeed. Yeah. Chris writes, an article says Trump opened his prayer breakfast speech saying he wanted them to pray for the Apprentice ratings. Yes, he did. I mean, after he said, I was the greatest, I was the best, I was the this, I was the that, and then they put in Arnold Schwarzenegger and then he said, we should pray for the Apprentice ratings. Now, I didn't mention that because I actually do think that was a joke. That was an acknowledgement that he was at a prayer breakfast, but again, it was everything that came before that was out of, and including then that, the whole subject was out of place. It was the National Prayer Breakfast. He also said to, I guess, the chaplain who gave the initial prayer, boy, you're good. Yeah, you're good. I don't know. Are you appointed? I want you in for the rest of the something like, I don't care what's to hell with it. To hell with it. That sounds like something I'd say at a prayer breakfast. But. Okay, did you see who the president appointed to? Oh, God. I don't even know. What is this position? Is there such a position? He's been appointed to a task force whose job is to deregulate higher education. What? How regulated is higher education? It turns out pretty much the only regulation higher education they want to target about is for-profit education, like Trump University. You see who he appointed to that task force? The president of Liberty University, Jerry Falwell Jr. His job will be to figure out how to roll back all of the Obama initiatives that were designed to prevent abuses by predatory for-profit colleges. Like Trump University. Scam artists posing as universities. Obama made it very hard for him. Now, let's talk about the fact that Falwell, but he's at Liberty is not a for-profit, right? Get this. Liberty enrolls about 14,000 students on campus. It enrolls 4 times that amount, 65,000, online. Online. Now, colleges often have an online presence now, but this is the second largest online university in the country, second only to Phoenix, which has 100,000. Liberty is essentially, a medium-sized nonprofit college that owns a huge for-profit college. Where does the money come from all those 65,000 kids who send their tuition dollars to Liberty and Jerry Falwell Jr.? They come from you. That's the money, because the overwhelming majority of the tuition of those Liberty Online students comes from financial aid provided by the federal Department of Education. See, what these Republicans are good at is corporate welfare. And they always figure out how to grab tax dollars. We already know that all the red states, people living in red states get disproportionately more federal dollars. They give fewer. People in blue states, we pay. It goes in to red states because the reality is that Liberty's considerable financial success, this college has a $1 billion cash reserve. $1 billion. Jerry Falwell Jr. is paid almost $1 million a year. And that success and his big income is underwritten largely by the American taxpayer. Meanwhile, all of those students who are going into debt, taking federal dollars and handing them over to Jerry Falwell and Liberty University, are struggling to repay those loans. You heard the term kleptocracy? This, ladies and gentlemen, is a kleptocracy where the people in power make off with the money. And this dismantling of regulations, banking regulations, EPA regulations, all the regulations. This Obama's making it difficult for these for-profit universities to scam people and ruin their lives. They're picking all those off. How do these idiots, like the idiot in Monessen, featured in the New York Times today, does he... Well, okay, so here's the deal. We've met the enemy, and the enemy is us, right? The enemy is human beings. The enemy is human beings with reptilian brains, easily played, easily bamboozled. The enemy is human beings. And I got a feeling that the humans who resist their reptilian brain not that we don't have them, we got them, but who resist are outnumbered globally and always have been. Human history is a history of human nature, and it ain't pretty, is it? And the ability of powerful people to control the rabble by scaring them and by promising them they'll keep you safe. We're no different. I mean, as I've said a million times, we haven't evolved that much because physical evolution can't occur that quickly. But because of our brains and the ability of some people to actually use them, we now are, living in this sophisticated, technologically driven world. But I got news for you. We're still essentially the same as our cavemen ancestors. It's just that we have smartphones. Serious. Cavemen with smartphones. Sue disagrees with me. I have heard talk of Democrats picking their battles and allow this candidate for the court to pass and focus on the next one. I have thought about this and I strongly disagree. Democrats need to obstruct every move this administration attempts. The people are strongly voicing their outrage, and our representatives need to listen and respond. I agree with you that we're looking for a leader. Who will it be? I don't know. Where are the Ted Kennedy types? We can't look for Ted Kennedy types. Guys, it's time for a younger generation. Somebody's got to step up. I don't know. Okay. And, okay, just on a local note, the boil water crapola. By the way, it made the Wall Street Journal today. Second page of the Wall Street Journal, it says 100,000 Pittsburghers can't drink the water. What I said yesterday, I'm doubling down on today. I think this thing is a bunch of bullshit. And the more media looks into it, the more it appears that that is true. Mayor Peduto said that water quality at the Highland Park Reservoir never dipped below federal safe drinking water standards. And he said, if you lived in any other state, you'd be drinking that water today. And we would not be closing down schools. Several water quality experts that the Post-Gazette contacted questioned the need for this boiling water advisory, saying that, wait a minute, you got a membrane filtration system that is pulling the Giardia out. This seems like overkill. Director of the Environmental Engineering Department at Drexel University in Philly, who specializes in water treatment and risk assessment, Charles Haas, said the Department of Environmental Protection's field order doesn't make any sense. A low chlorine reading in a system with a membrane filter doesn't seem like the kind of critical violation that should cause a health concern. Somebody over in the western end of the state needs to get smart about this. Well, hey, it wasn't us in the western part. It was the DEP from the middle part that did this to us. We're the ones who are being inconvenienced. This is bullshit. And yet, I'm following the plan, mostly. Not quite. Mostly. What nonsense. God, we got to get better at understanding when we're getting played. We're just getting played all the time. And it always creates fear and panic and overreaction. Ugh! Okay. Well. Oh, look. Someone sent me. Wait, just take. On this day in history. Well, it was 2 days ago. Adolf Hitler was sworn in as Chancellor of Germany. That's from Chris. Well, ain't that nice? Yeah, well, we're aiming to go down in the history books, too. So who will we go to war with first? Australia or Iran? Mexico? Yeah, don't forget them. Maybe even Canada. I got to tell you guys, this is shaping up to be more of a horror than we ever in our wildest dreams could have imagined. All About Eve was on last night, and I did say there's that line in it, something like, buckle up your seatbelts. Were there seatbelts then? That wouldn't have been it. It's gonna be a bumpy night. Well, it's gonna be a bumpy year, or 2, or 3. God, or 4, or 5, or 6, or 7, or 8. And on that lovely note, see you in my nightmares.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.